foremost, our daddy. I'm sure that many of you have had the opportunity to hear my father speaking of one of his favorite Mishnayot from Pirkei Avot, פרק ג' משנה ז'. רבי יעקב אומר, המהלך בדרך בשונה, ומפסיק ממשנתו ואומר, מה נאה אילן זה ומה נאה ניר זה, מעלה עליו הכתוב כאילו מתחייב בנפשו. The explanation that my father enjoys teaching is that if to praise the beauty of nature, you have to stop your Mishnah, your way of life, and your Torah learning, and if it isn't obvious to you that the wonders of nature are part of Torah, then you definitely are mitchayev b'nafsho. In my father's world, in the world that he teaches, and in the world that we were brought up in, there's no line between nature and Torah. He sees the world through glasses of Marabu Ma'asecha Hashem, Kulam B'chokma Asita, Mal'ah Ha'aretz Kinyanecha. When I think of my father, I think of Torah and science, baseball and Mishnah, Dr. Seuss and mitzvot, statistics and Torah tidbits, box games and Rochel on Friday, and I can go on and on. Many years ago, Daddy bought me a sweatshirt with the print of Vayomer Elokim Yehi O, and right underneath it, it said E equals MC squared, demonstrating that science explains Torah, enhances it, and lights it up in a new meaning all the time. That sweatshirt is what he believes, what he breathes, and what he lives in a nutshell. In that spirit, he continues to raise his grandchildren too. Daddy, or as he's better known lately as Wasabi, likes to tell a story about a student who saw the Rav Soloveitchik playing horsey with his grandson, and asked the Rav if this is appropriate for a rabbi to waste time in such a way. The Rav answered by saying, no horsey, no Gemara, meaning that if he doesn't play horsey with his grandson now, he won't have the option of learning Gemara with him when he's ready for it. But really, in Daddy's world, the horsey, or in his case, horsey, baseball, Harry Potter, star watching, games on Shabbat afternoon, jokes, and many other things are not just something to do in the meantime until the grandchildren get older and are capable of learning Torah with him. They are ways of learning Torah, Emunah, and Hashkafa right now. Peppering the Torah learning with trivia, stories, anecdotes, jokes, and information about Ursa Major, Willie Mays, Casey at the back, a golden snitch, top germ, root beer, seltzer, the Giants, glycemic index, and Vega, and teaching Torah through Lester, Sherlock Hemlock, and to think I saw it on Mulberry Street, what's a cubit, take 4, I owe you one, and too proud of me to speak, are another way of saying that for Daddy, there's no stopping the Mishnah to admire a tree or a field, but rather the tree and the field and the stars and the world almanac are all ways to learn a whole, fulfilling, and inspiring Torah that can reach every single aspect of life. I've always been envious of my father's feelings towards his work, which has always been, you mean I get paid for this too? His working as a Torah teacher in the States as a science, math, and Mishnah teacher, and here in Israel teaching and spreading Torah from the center of Israel, literally around the world, brings him great joy and fills him with satisfaction. But even more than that, he gets to do what he loves all day, every day. Daddy's learning of Torah and doing mitzvot with an excitement that is hard to beat, and an enthusiasm that makes us, his daughters, friends, colleagues, and students, want to be part of that way of life and inspires us to learn, teach, and do is a big part in what makes him special. It wouldn't make sense to talk about our father and not mention his fierce connection to Israel. My father's love affair with Eretz Israel started long before I was born. Picture this, Brooklyn, 1948. He grew up in a house that preached for Aliyah and knew from a young age that he would come here. I can only attest to the past 34 years, and especially the last 29 of them. Our parents made the courageous act of making Aliyah almost 30 years ago, an act that changed the course of our lives and has much impact and effect on who we are today. Thank you, Daddy, for making Aliyah and for bringing us up in Eretz Israel, where we absorb and continue to absorb the extra special holiness and spirit which is unique to this country of Torah. Your love for the land of Israel is contagious, and it has seemed to have rubbed off on us. By living in the center of the world, taking Shabbos walks to the Kotel, schmoozing, listening to stories, surveys at Shabbatonim, your views on Parashat Shlach Lecha, and your conversations with Michael or Neil Winkler, and many other ways too, we were brought up with a fierce love for Eretz Yisrael and Yerushalayim, and a knowledge that this is our and all of Am Yisrael's only true home. So my sisters and I would like to levarech our Daddy in the words said at a siyum, V'arev na Adonai Eloheinu et divrei Toratecha בפיל ומפיות עמך בית ישראל, ונהיה כולנו, אנחנו וצאצאינו וצאצאי עמך בית ישראל, כולנו יודעי שמך ולומדי תורתך לשמה. And we should be זוכר to continue ללמוד וללמד, לשמור ולעשות ולקיים את כל כל דברי תלמוד תורתך באהבה. In good health and with your children and grandchildren עד 120.
Thank you very much, Neri, for very touching words, and I think in what you said to your dad, it touched all of us, because in many ways we can share the nakas that no doubt he and Tony feel when he looks at you and your sisters and sees the courageous decision in what happened. Wonderful children, sons-in-law, grandchildren, Ken Yergum. Our next speaker is our co-president, Rabbi Aaron Burrow, who is going to make a special presentation, a gift to Phil. Anyone who knows Aaron knows him to be dignified, calm demeanor, always sensitive to the needs of our chaverim, for which we are all grateful. Rabbi Burrow and I served together in St. Louis for many years. We overlapped, and that's just the wonderful sort of person he is. His dedication to the RCA is evident. Just like Jay, they're actively involved as co-presidents in everything that the organization does. Again, I witness how both he and Jay cooperate. They get together here early, downstairs for a lunch before the meeting, determining what the agenda would be and who will do what, and how the responsibilities. Nothing happens by accident. It's because of them that our RCA region here is as successful as it is, and this Malav Malka is just one example of the many wonderful things that they both do together. So it's with a great deal of pleasure that I call upon our co-president, Rabbi Aaron Burrow, for a special presentation to Phil.
2007 that we left. So we were actually homeless. And Phil presented our case to the leadership of the Israel Center, and because of Phil's efforts, we found a new home. We have conducted bi-monthly meetings at the Israel Center. The RCA Daf Yomi meets here regularly, as did at one time the Ulpan Giyur, and we plan to continue our bi-monthly Yimei Iyun here as well. So this Malav Malka gives us the opportunity to express our gratitude to Phil publicly. And we offer you the bracha that Yaakov Avinu gave to his grandchildren. B'cha yivarech et Yisrael. When a father wants to bless his son, the bracha he gives is Yisimcha Elokim ke'Ephraim u'ke'Menashe. That God make you like Ephraim and Menashe. And the question is asked, why didn't Yaakov Avinu say that Hashem should make you as Yehuda? After all, Yehuda was destined to be the leader of Israel. Yehuda was destined to be the Melech, the prime minister, the Nasi. And so why shouldn't we also say to Phil that Hashem make you as Yehuda? But be honest, Phil, prime minister or Nasi may not be a job for a Jewish boy. Why then didn't Yaakov Avinu say, you should be blessed like Zvulun and Yisachar, Yisachar and Zvulun? Yisachar would devote himself completely to learning, to become a great Rosh Yeshiva, or Zvulun would be a great merchant, perhaps a billionaire. And Phil, if Phil would have become a Rosh Yeshiva, or would have become a wealthy man, then I am worried that he would not be able to collaborate with Iter Rochel so that the Torah tidbits would be published each week, and that would be a great loss to the English-speaking people in Eretz Yisrael. Therefore, Phil, the bracha we offer to you is to be like Ephraim and Menashe. And our Chachamim teach that Yaakov Avinu placed his right hand upon the head of Ephraim, a sign that Ephraim was very special in the eyes of Yaakov. Menashe, the Bechor, was not Mekana. He did not become jealous of his brother. And Ephraim, in turn, did not show gaiva. He didn't show arrogance. And so what Yaakov Avinu saw, that the younger brother Ephraim did not act with pride and arrogance, and that Menashe, the Bechor, did not show jealousy. He said, Halavai, that all of our people should act in this manner, with modesty and with brotherly love. This is the essence, I believe, of the bracha of Yisimcha Elokim Ki Ephraim and Menashe. The bracha of Yaakov Avinu, to be like Ephraim and Menashe, says to us, be a mensch. And we offer this bracha to you, Phil. Continue in your ways of menschlichkeit for many years to come. There is, I think, an additional message in the bracha. Ephraim was known as a Yoshev Ohalim, like his Zayda. He was devoted to Torah, according to Chazal. He was dedicated to a life of Yiras Shamayim and a life of Limud Torah in a creative way. He was given the name of Ephraim by his father Yosef. Ki Hifrani Elokim be'eretz onyi. Hashem made me fruitful in the land of my oppression. Hashem enabled Ephraim to be creative in Mitzrayim, in an environment which was hostile to Yahadut. Menashe, on the other hand, was a worldly person. He was the Melix. He was the interpreter. He knew the language of Egypt and he knew the language of the Hebrews. He was a good administrator and he assisted Yosef as the Mishneh Lamelech. The bracha we give to you, Phil, is to continue to be as Ephraim and Menashe, a model for all of us in your menschlichkeit, in your modesty, and your love for all of us. Continue also to be creative in your interpretation of Torah and Yiras Shamayim. Continue to be a Renaissance man and bring your understanding of the world to the eternal message of our Torah, and continue to present your Torah thoughts to the English-speaking Jewish community in Eretz Yisrael. In appreciation for the friendship that you have shown us to the RCA in Israel region, we are pleased to present you, Phil, with several gifts. I'm told that one of the gifts is what is called a Bar Ilan memory stick, which will enable you, Phil, to, at your fingertips, have all of Tanakh and all of Shas at your fingertips. We also present you with a high-tech radio. I have no idea what a high-tech radio is, but I hope that you'll enjoy it. We want to present your dear wife, Tony, with special flowers, Tony, to you. Special flowers. And I want to thank you for all of the work that you do for the Israel Center, especially in the distribution of the Torah tidbits. And last but not least, we are very grateful to Ita Rachel for assisting the RCA in arranging all of our meetings and events, and for the time and effort that she spent in enabling us to have this beautiful Melava Malkin. Mazel Tov to you, Phil, as a distinguished honoree of the RCA in Israel Melava Malkin.
Until now, and basically react. Does not give me a lot of time to prepare, but those who know how I speak know that I could sort of wing things, as the expression goes. I have a lot of little, for lack of a better word, tidbits to share with you. It starts by looking at the audience here and recognizing, like that old television show, This Is Your Life. I see people here that knew my parents before I was born. I see people who knew me from birth. I have my brothers who knew me from their birth, not from mine. and a niece, a token niece, we'll call her, and a nephew, and a token sister-in-law. And originally it was supposed to be one of my three daughters. The two from out of town, we wanted to spare the drive into Yerushalayim. And as I told each of them before, I'm very glad that they are smarter than their father. So I appreciate their being here. I see Rabbi Zuraf here and have fond and other memories of high school. And Rabbi Averman, who, parallel to Rabbi Zuraf in high school, was the administrator of REITs when I was learning at YU. So there are fond and other memories there too. I see people who were colleagues of mine, Eddie Abramson, classmate, Howie Kahn, who played some of my favorite songs. He and I go back to November 2nd, 1969. It's a long story why I remember that date, but I do. The other person I met at that same date was Miriam Adler, Rabbi Adler's wife, and only met Arla Adler when she brought him into the family. How long have you been engaged? I mean, how long ago were you engaged? That's how long we know each other. Many other people for the last 29 years of living here. Some people go back to Crown Heights. I am sure that Rabbi Quint and I must have passed each other on Kingston Avenue many times without knowing each other. And I'm very pleased to have gotten to know him since. Yes. I wanted to make a special note of both Rabbi Noam and Naomi Gordon, who are here, because that's another part of my life. We davened in the same shul in Kew Gardens Hills. We started the same shul in Kew Gardens Hills. Naomi is also the daughter of my Rebbe, Rav Sipperstein, Zichrono Livracha from YU. And Noam is a colleague in not just Torah, but in math as well. So I apologize to the many, many other people that I could mention and have not. I'll add the main antagonist to the color scheme, Rabbi Greenspan, who is my favorite Dodger fan, a team which I hate only a little bit less than I hate the Yankees. No offense, Rabbi Adler. See, some of my best friends are Yankees and Dodger fans. I wanted to briefly explain the color theme. As was mentioned earlier, it has nothing to do with October 31st, but it is the color of the Giants, who used to be the New York Giants, and then moved to San Francisco, and I stayed with them, although many other people dropped their fanship. The story that I want to relate about October 31st. October 31st, 1980 was our last October 31st in New York, and our young, not yet 4-year-old daughter was looking out the window on a Friday afternoon, and she watched some of the neighborhood kids doing what some neighborhood kids do on October 31st, and said, I don't even remember what you called me at that time, whether it was Abba or Daddy or Papi, probably Papi. I know that I'm Jewish, but can I watch the kids go trick-or-treat? I said, yes, you could watch. So she stood at the window, and I don't know what went through her mind. But 1 year later, October 31st, 1981, Baruch Hashem, we were here already. I would love to say that was the thing that made the decision, but we were already planning on our Aliyah. But I vividly remember October 31st, 1981, passing with not a semblance of any memories from the States. And what I love is when kids today get a glimpse of Halloween costumes and they say, well, it's not even Purim. That's how it should be. I have friends who have had kids visit the States at the end of December, and they laugh. What are the sukkah decorations doing out at the end of December? it goes, etc., etc. Yes, speaking of decorations, as my prompter, non-electronic prompter just said, I'd like to give a special thank you to Lillian Fisher, who was one of the people who goes back with me before I was born, and Connie and Sheldon Abramson, and Frida Newsom, who worked on the decorations of the room and the table decorations. I don't think we will explain everything. I think you picked it up pretty much then. When I mentioned Rabbi Zuraf, I also want to mention Mrs. Zuraf, who was a very close friend of my mother, Alea Shalom, and a classmate back in Hunter College when it was just for women. And I always like to tell people that she and my mother and my aunt, Alea Shalom, graduated together with Bess Meyerson. And Bess Meyerson went on to be that year the first ever college graduate to win Miss America. But I think Mrs. Zuraf and my mother and my aunt did very well for themselves as well without the problems. I want to relate to the Kriyat Shema that Aaron Adler was talking about on two levels. I heard at an Azkara yesterday morning for Hillary Sher, Alea Shalom, that the question handled a little differently. Yaakov was saying Shema. What about Yosef? Shouldn't he have been saying Shema if it was the time for Shema? And if it was not the time for Shema, then what was Yaakov saying it for? Different answers. But the answer that I heard appealed to me very much. When Yaakov was overwhelmed with personal feelings of joy at being reunited with his son Yosef, he wanted to bring that appreciation and enthusiasm and feeling of love and direct it to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's one thing to hug your child, and he did, and we do, and we love them, but our love for our children and grandchildren and friends should be a manifestation of our love for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And that's what Yaakov Avinu was doing when he said Shema at that moment of reunion. I've said over the years that if somebody were to wake me in the middle of the night and say, give me a Devar Torah, I used to say what I was, but then I had to say, wait, I would wash Netilat Yadayim first, and then maybe say Birchot Torah before I did. But the Devar Torah that many of you have heard from me, but I think fits with the Shema theme, and it fits with the Israel Center, and me, and Torah Tidbits, and you. If a person tells a Devar Torah, gives a shir, transmits Torah to others, he is fulfilling the mitzvah of Vishinantam Levanecha, to teach Torah. If the transfer of Torah is mind to mind, and that's it, Vishinantam Levanecha. But if there is more, if there is heart to heart within that Torah, a sparkle in the eye, a thrill at hearing a good vart, a good shir, then according to Sefer Charedim, the person is fulfilling not only Vishinantam Levanecha, but V'ahavta et Hashem Elokecha b'chol levavcha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol ma'odecha. Love of God and love of Torah and love of Judaism and love of fellow Jews are all part of the same experience. And they go with a person's mind and with his heart and with his soul, completely. That's a message that every shiur here at the center tries to get across. That's what I have been trying to do since way back in Bnei Akiva days, and then in NCSY as an advisor, and then in Yeshiva of Central Queens as a teacher, and then here at the Israel Center on an adult informal education basis, not just to teach facts, or to teach a commentary, or to teach a halacha, but to hopefully convey a feeling of love for that which we learn, which raises the level of what we learn from just an academic exercise, and even, I could say, just a fulfillment of the mitzvah of V'shinantam Levanecha, to a much higher level of bringing into the picture Ahavat Hashem and Ahavat Torah. So, I have many more things. Let me see if there's something really pressing that I wanted. Yeah, okay, I'll leave that. I wrote some notes. Got Greenspan in there. I wanted to make sure I had that. There are many other people I want to thank, but I'm not going to. It just stretches the evening, which I very much appreciate. Speakers, especially in my position as an honoree, tend to say, how many more chances am I going to get at this? Let me say everything, but I'll save it for other times when we meet. I have something that I'd like to give you, which I'll go around giving out shortly, but I think I'll turn the floor back to Rabbi Bienenfeld, who is not only a good friend, but the brother-in-law of a very good friend. So.
The honoree with a plaque, you know, that he could put up on his wall, appreciate what Phil Chernovsky did. But my wife had a better idea, and she said, you know, wouldn't it be nice if people sort of told Phil how they really felt about him? I thought it was a great idea, instead of a plaque, and I ran with the idea and presented it to the committee, and we came up with something that we called a tribute journal. Now, it's supposed to be a surprise, and a letter went out to everybody asking people to write a page or so about why they think Phil is such a great guy. There were we had many people who submitted entries, and we compiled them all in a special journal which we called a tribute journal. And again, once again, with the help of Ida Rachel, we put it together as what we hope will be a very fitting memento. We put a lot of other keepsakes in there as well, with some empty pages that you put in photographs, but it's our way, the organization's way of telling you, or giving you something, and when you read the various letters that people wrote, and I had occasion to read them, very, very touching, and it says what everyone has already said. But if I could sum it up just in one brief description, is this: Phil is a person who pays attention to detail. Precision is very important. You see it in the Torah tidbits when he speaks about halacha. What probably you all know is this, is that same precision and that same attention to detail that so characterizes Phil when he deals with halachic subjects is the way he deals with people. Little things matter to him. He pays attention to people, to everybody. It doesn't matter the age, it doesn't matter the time. He has an ability, a patience, to relate to people on a very personal level. I've seen it personally. You've probably seen it even more than I. And it's that attention to detail, be'adam l'chavero, that makes him the lovable guy that we all know he is. So Phil, this is for you. Take it home, enjoy it. You can fix it up however you'd like to fix it if you don't like it, but it's yours. Thank you very much, Phil. In so many ways, I hope that David Katz, the CFO of the Israel Center, will convey those wishes to Avi on behalf of the RCA. Also, I'd like to thank David and to thank Sarah Barilowitz. You have to understand how many people came over to me offering me advice as to how to make this evening a success, and we appreciate it all. I'd like to again thank the members of our committee, again our co-president, Rabbi Jay Carson, for calling, seating, and so many other things, Rabbi Burrow, for his calling, working out the gift, his advice, I'd like to thank the Bir Konim, by the way. The Ventures was the project of Rabbi Phil Goldman. If you haven't taken one or you don't have one, you can certainly take one on your way out. I want to thank Phil for his efforts with the Bir Konim. And also the other members of the committee, Rabbis Menachem Reb, Eddie Abramson, for their help and really their support in everything that we did. Lillian Fisher as well, she was mentioned for the decorations in the committee. Phil's family also joined in. I want to thank Nachum and Binyamin for taking care of the photography and the video so Phil can have the opportunity and the family to look at it. Again, to Phil's daughters and to Tony for helping they also work behind the scenes to make it happen. I want to thank Pearl Burrow, Ruby Karzan for their help at the welcome desk, as they always do for our Malava Malkus. And of course, Acharona Chaviva, if I can rephrase it that way, as everyone has already mentioned, to Itta Rachel for all of her help. Again, everyone said it, but with whatever work the committee was able to do, it wouldn't have happened had Itta Rachel not, I don't know where she found the time for it. She's juggling so many things, the glue in so many ways that keeps the Israel Center together. But we're very appreciative, and we have a gift for you, Itta Rachel, but we will give it to you afterwards, okay? But the organization, the RCA, wanted to present you with a token of our appreciation. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been a wonderful evening. We want to thank you so much for coming and for helping to make it a success. Again, our mazel tov to our honoree, Phil Chernovsky. Thank you so much. We'd like to call upon... Is Rabbi Quinn here? Rabbi Quinn, we'd like to honor you with the benching, please. Shir Amalek.